thing. Oh yeah. As am I. 3, 2, 1.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Elizabeth the Winner Review podcast. This is episode 5 and as ever, episode 5. I've been doing that. As soon as I got that in my head, I was like, I'm going to make this mistake, and there I went. This is episode 35. And
5 plus 30.
As ever, my name is David and his name is Alex. How are you doing today, Alex Aldridge?
I'm actually pretty tired.
You had a late night last night.
I did. I played this podcast's game until 1:30 in the morning to try and get to the end.
Did you manage to get? For you, listeners. Did you manage to get through the podcast through the game without hating it because you were having to basically crunch it?
Yeah, purely, as we'll get to later, because sometimes the game decided to glitch itself in my favour and render boss fights to about a minute long.
Excellent news. Well, it's. I feel like the game owes you a couple glitches to make the game shorter for all that pointless slow walking around you've got to do.
Yeah, agreed. It would be weird. I mean, it would be weird if you were in a scenario where you're having a conversation with someone and they start doing like forward rolls and sprinting away from you. But it's a video game, so. I mean, I've shot these people, so do they really care if I start rolling about and running quicker? Why do I have to walk? Because it actually would put like a little line, wouldn't it? Like a little circle with a line through it every time you tried to roll during one of the forced talky cutscenes.
Yeah, it would be like, no, don't do that. That's weird. Because everything else in that game is absolutely normal.
Spot on, bang on.
Completely normal. If you're listening to this podcast and you haven't bothered to read your feed, this is Binary Domain that we played, which I am a big fan of. I don't know how. You've played this before as well, haven't you? This is not the.
Yeah, we are playing this because last month in February 2022, it turned 10 years old.
10 years old. Which means.
And I had played it before, yes.
2012 when it came out. So we would have still been at university then when this came out.
Yeah, it would have been our last year of university.
Yeah. And if it was March, yeah. So we would have.
Oh, you did a master's.
So we. Yeah, I'm trying to match the dates up because, like, I think we graduated in May, but we were finished uni before May, were we not?
Our graduation ceremony was in July.
Oh, was it July? Okay. But yeah, maybe we finished.
So we probably finished around May time, and then came back.
Okay, so we would have been on the tail end, probably putting the final touches on our dissertations, probably.
Me writing about the Wii and the DS.
Yeah.
I can't remember what you did yours on. It was to do with video games as well, wasn't it?
I did video game narratives, yeah.
There, of course you did. Yeah, but yours was a journalism course, wasn't it? So it's slightly different.
Publishing and journalism, yes.
Yeah. I don't think I played this while I was in Scotland, though. This definitely was a game I got a few years later.
So did I bully you into this, or did you discover this on your own?
That's a really good question. Maybe I did play it at the time. I do remember that you and I had a conversation about how underrated this game was, and every time we did, we used to do Game of the Years on our podcast. We would do we did a whole thing where we were like going back and doing Game of the Years for like Xbox 360 Game of the Years and stuff, and I remember we always used to bring this one up as like, oh, it's just so underrated, it's sold really badly, but you and I are the only people that ever talk about it. And I guess you look it up online, there's not a lot of people talking about it even now.
No. And I think I do, for the most part, stand by that. I think this is still.
I really enjoyed this. It's really it holds up perfectly well. It's really solid to play.
There was one. I think I said it to you when we first started playing. One thing that bugged me that I kept doing throughout the game. So, like to climb over a sort of waist high ledge, you've got to press forward and B, I think. Then to get into cover, you've got to hold forward and A. But when you're in cover, to climb over the ledge, you've got to press forward and A. So it changes what it wants you to do when you're climbing over. That's the only thing that really bothered me in this game, I think.
Yeah. But most of the time that was like contextual forward and B to climb over specific things, but that was odd. Yeah, because I'd sometimes press B to try and climb over the cover and it wasn't the right button anymore.
Yeah. But everything else, I think it holds up really well. I think the story is like it would never win an Oscar if it was a movie, but it's engaging and it at least sort of shoots for something interesting. I think like the Hollow Children story is interesting. I don't think they carry it off very well.
Yeah, I think the setup for this is really cool.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not exactly groundbreaking there because this has been like a thing since, I don't know, probably the late 70s, early 80s of robots, deciding humans are expendable or whatever. This sort of fear of the future. But the way that they set it up, post-apocalypse, everything's underwater. They've replaced all the working class people with robots. But now there are some that look like humans. That was well put across. Sort of thing you'd expect a developer like Ryu Gagatoku Studio, who did the Yakuza games.
I wasn't looking forward to trying to pronounce that.
I don't even know. I can't remember if I've got that right. It's on the back of my Mac. Hang on.
Oh, actually, as well.
Ryu Gagatoku.
I like to try and put a game up for people to see. So let's get him up there.
While you've done that, let's have
I can't even see
a very quick discussion. The box art's absolutely terrible.
Yeah,
it is absolutely terrible.
He's carrying the English dude. I've just realised
I could never tell who that was, but yeah, you're right. It is. It's Charlie, isn't it?
Yeah.
I can see Faye and Big Bo in there.
Faye, Big Bo, yep, and then a bunch of robots.
It's just really poor. It doesn't give off any. I've always said that this game is kind of like a really cheesy, slightly generic third-person shooter that has a real like under level of like a layer underneath of depth in terms of it's shooting for something quite lofty in terms of its premise, but the way that it executes it is slightly generic. It's like execution over innovation, I guess.
You're right, and I was trying to think about like, and maybe I am missing the point a little bit, but maybe not fully. But maybe the game is also. Anyway, I'll get to it, and then you can decide for yourself. But like, obviously, it's doing that sort of. I want to call it a trope. Maybe trope's not the right word, but sort of cliche, sci-fi thing about robots taking over the world, and like you're saying, deciding humans are expendable. Another thing that I think it touches on and does a really bad ham-fisted job of resolving is another sort of sci-fi cliche in which they use aliens and robots as metaphors for racism.
And you not think it was for classism in this case, though?
Yeah, you could be right. Yeah, I guess so. I'm just trying to think of like when they were talking about Faye at the end of the game and how she wasn't a real human, and how her life was somehow subhuman, and her life wasn't worth as much. And the same with the robots. And they never really explained that. Just seemed to be sort of established fact in the game, and it's like, of course they're not as good as us, but with the robots specifically, I mean, Faye's an even worse example, but like the robots specifically, they didn't know they were robots. They exhibited pain, they exhibited emotion, especially when they discovered that they were sort of robots. They were extremely disturbed by that.
Yeah. Well, while we're on that, do you think that these robots were designed and manufactured in an adult form, and their sentience or their memory log started? Doesn't matter when it started, because obviously they've been programmed to have memories, right? Because logically, you'd think you if you've broken a leg as a kid, you find out you're a robot. So they're not making like embryo robots, are they? They're making like adult cyborgs,
and are they
giving them memories
and humans then? So like that guy,
they have to replace the humans anyway, because a lot of them died out because of the global warming that's caused.
Yeah, but I mean, like, so like the one in the sort of slums in Japan, the one that is like that guy's mate. Was he?
He's only known him for 10 years.
Yeah, was he a real human at some point, and then he gets sort of kidnapped and murdered, presumably, and then replaced with a robot, or is he just sort of a robot from the day dot with fake memories and things implanted in him? I'm not sure.
maybe they are. They never make any mention of them replacing humans, so that would be us just filling in a blank if that is what it is. But yeah, I guess they must. They can't come. They can't be babies and then grow all the way up into like 30, 40-year-old people that then realize they're robots on this specific day. They have to have been recently created and just given a whole backstory somehow. I don't really know what.
Are their parents robots as well? Presumably, that don't know they're robots.
If they even had them, I mean, like I say, if they're just making a 30-year-old robot and going, here's 30 years of memories.
Oh, by the
dump
way,
him out into the streets.
So you don't go and try and visit them.
Oh, I see. Yeah, fucking hell. Too early in the podcast to think about this, to give myself a headache over this. We're trying to unravel a plot that they clearly didn't unravel.
They were not as worried about it as we were.
No, they weren't. But that's been bothering me since the first time I played this. Like, how have you gone this long without realizing you're a robot? But it can't have existed for that. Maybe the tech's not even that old, because they've created these Rust crews, this task force to go hunt down all these hollow children.
Yeah.
So they can't have been doing that for too long, I'd have thought.
No, you wouldn't think so.
I don't know when the apocalypse is. Do you know when the apocalypse was supposed to have happened?
So the game is.
I know this is set in 2080.
2080, yeah. Let's have a quick wee skim, see if we can see. So the plot: global warming has caused worldwide flooding, leaving much of the world uninhabitable. This forced the governments to build new cities above the waterline, using the ruined cities as foundations. Since much of the world's population had died during the climate crisis, robots were used as the main labour force. An American-based company called Bergen. No, it doesn't say.
No.
It must be fairly recently, though. I'd say, within 20, 30 years? Because the cities all look
before
pretty
the settings. Yeah. They're just kind of on top of like flooded ruins, basically, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Which I guess is why you're playing the whole game in Tokyo and it looks nothing like Tokyo.
Yeah, and
a missed opportunity there.
That's right. They start the game off as well by making you swim and then just never make you do it again. I mean, I'm never going to complain about that because I'm a well documented hater of swimming in games, but I just think that's odd. I'm actually glad because they didn't handle very well either.
Yeah, the whole like having to go under the water while a spotlight's on you was a bit weird.
Yeah.
But I think I derailed wherever it was that you were going with it by trying to ask that question about how long they've been robots for or whatever.
It just sort of so where I was going with this, and maybe like I'm saying, maybe like you were saying, it's maybe not explicitly racism, but it sort of perpetuates this notion that human life is somehow above these robots' life, and even above these.
Is it called otherism? Is that a thing?
I'm not sure. It could be. That sounds like it might be something.
Like a fear of people who are different to you or whatever it is.
Yeah, that makes sense. And like even like Faye, for example, like Faye, for all intents and purposes, is human. She just like
otherism is nothing like what I said it was.
What is it?
The process of unconsciously planned and contradictory preparation to push an individual out of a group. Defend against the entry of a person into a group or arrange down within the rank of person. Maybe it is actually.
Yeah,
maybe it is.
I'd say that's quite close. Faye is a human. There's not if you cut Faye's leg off, she would have bones and stuff. She wouldn't have any sort of robot insides.
Well, actually, so now we think about that. Do we know? I don't know if we know how old she is. But I think the wiki does. The Wikipedia does actually have it. Does it tell you how old she is? It does have profiles on all of the people.
Faye Lee. She's voiced by Laura Bailey, the daughter of People's Liberation Army officer in the Central Military Commission. Faye studied under the supervision of the People's Liberation Army General Staff Department at the Robotic Military Command Institute. She experienced combat at the GSD's Robotic Operations Squad prior to being transferred to Rust Crew. She holds the rank of First Lieutenant.
So we don't know how old she is, but she's roughly mid-20s, early 30s.
So. Yeah.
So that means the Hollow Children have been around long enough to have conceived this grown adult.
Conceived her, yeah, and because she was a child. that grew up.
As the child of a hollow child, yeah.
I don't understand. So going by this game's logic, if you are...
That's such a stupid twist.
Yeah, I know. If you are going by this game's logic, then, if you're sort of conceived by like artificial insemination, are you subhuman?
Well, that's what some people seem to think, isn't it?
Seems like it.
Certainly what they all seem to think, except for Dan, until they all change their mind at the end.
Yeah.
It's quite weird that
In that flashback.
you can
where Dan keeps smashing in the robot for no reason.
Well, see, right, the robot, that bit is stupid because he's really going to town on it and he looks mental. But from what I gathered, his dad was beating up his mum and the robot didn't stop his dad, so he beat the robot up. Really dark undertones to a stupid scene of a kid with like a wiffle bat just absolutely wailing on some crappy serve bot.
In a cast of 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 characters, I hated Dan, but I actually don't think he's the one I hated the most.
I think he's the one I hated the least.
I thought Faye was fine. She didn't bother me too much. She was a bit weird with some of her quips. And Kane, actually, I didn't mind him because he was...
No, actually, Kane's the best.
Yeah.
The best. Yeah, he is. He's a bit suave. I just want to go back to Faye's mum again for a second.
Yeah, sorry.
They've got like exo skin. The skin is like a layer. It's like it's like my old mate. It's like a Terminator. So
they're essential Terminators.
They have an endoskeleton that is a Terminator, effectively. So Faye was conceived in a robotic womb.
Yeah. They wouldn't
that could be impregnated with actual human sperm.
And even in 2080, where they've got the technology to create android humans that are indistinguishable, they didn't pick it up in any scans that she was
fucking gynecologist asleep on the job. Your cervix looks a bit shiny, but I'm sure that's normal.
Got a bit of rust there.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man alive. You can't have made like a proper womb in these things. But it has to have done because it's sustained her. Yeah. What's the umbilical cord made of? Fucking USB cables?
Yeah. That guy's finger, Kane's finger.
He could knock up loads of birds with that.
Yeah.
Oh, digitally transmitted sexual transmission diseases. I don't know.
The 2080 version of an STD is just a virus, like a Trojan virus.
Yeah.
That gets in there during
Herpes.exe.
Yeah.
What a stupid thing. Because they're gonna. He says it, doesn't he? Like, the tech is so advanced they can conceive actual humans. It's like, you need to expand on that because that's fucking ludicrous. Oh my god! But that is totally in keeping with what's his name? Toshihiro Nagoshi is the director. He's the director of all the Yakuza games. He's left the studio now, which is annoying because he was talking about rebooting this.
Yeah, because I read it. Apparently, he was in an interview talking about it, and he was asked about a sequel, and he said he'd be open to the idea as long as Sega didn't mind.
Oh, that's the producer. That's someone different. So maybe, hopefully, that guy still may have some clout.
Well, they're set up for a sequel. Although I didn't realize until
you're kind of like renegades, aren't you?
Well, yeah, I didn't realize until I was researching a little bit for this podcast that there's like things that can and can't happen in the game. Some things happen, some things don't, and there's multiple endings.
I totally didn't realize there was multiple endings. Yeah.
So I guess
is it based on how much Faye likes you or something?
I think I think a lot of it's based on how much all the characters like you throughout the game. So like Bo at the end can betray you, and he can actually betray you.
Oh wow! Really?
Whether you get his like meter up high enough. And Kane can live or die depending on what happens.
What?
Let's see. So I'll since we're on it, I might as well do it. So there's 1, 2, 3. There's 4 different endings. So Kane can die. Bo betrays you, and Rachel dies protecting Faye. Kane can die. Bo doesn't betray you, but dies protecting Faye. Kane lives. Bo betrays you.
That's what I had. I'm assuming you had that too, right?
I had Kane.
I had Kane dies. Bo didn't betray me. Well, he did, but then he changed his mind, and then he died protecting Rachel.
He didn't die in my game, I don't think.
Bo didn't die?
No. I'll need to go back and check, but I'm fairly certain he didn't die.
Yeah, he gets slammed into the wall, and then he
died.
Because he betrays him, and then he's like, "You didn't think I was really going to shoot you," and then he get into the fight, but then the robot general bats him into that thing for me, and then he died after the fight.
I don't know how I've managed to delete that from my brain. I've got absolutely no idea then. Luckily, I was streaming it, so I can go back and check. Kane lives, Bo doesn't betray you, Kane saves Faye, everyone lives. So there's only one of 4 endings.
Kane's the one who saves Faye.
There's only one of 4 endings that can happen, but I think Kane died in mine. Although
he definitely died in mine.
I used Kane and Faye for most of the time throughout the game. So
you did, yeah.
There is a chance that Kane did live in mine, because he would have been full like for me by the end of it, because he just liked it when you shot people in the head and were like killed people fast. He got well excited about that.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to check, but I came up when I was reading the endings, I was like, oh, I think I got the all survives ending, and then at the end, did you get the cutscene after you finish the game where Dan goes and finds Faye?
Yeah.
And they have a bit of a kiss in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
And then I assume you also had sex with Faye then at the end of chapter 4.
Oh my god. Sorry.
What happened?
I went to look at your stream and oh my god, it just fucking nearly gave me a heart attack. That was the loudest thing ever. Fucking hell.
Let me I can look at the stream too.
Yeah, I just wanted to see what you got. Oh my god.
Hello.
You're the one picking me up?
I can't tell if this is me or you playing this.
I'm on
Did you
Los
start
Santos
off in the
Freeway.
Yeah, you must have started off in the gunfight bit.
We started off in a roughly similar place.
God, this looks so much better than my stream did.
There's the fight against Faye. So I take it it's after that, is it?
Yeah, it's about 3:25, 3 hours 25 minutes. Oh, no, it's not.
Vessels
It's
now have
before
the
that.
authority to assess the validity
Bo
of
died in
orders
yours.
they receive.
Oh, did he? Oh well.
And he says holler if you're dead to him.
Oh, so it did, yes. Okay, that's yeah, that's really jogged my memory. Yeah.
Joke.
So Bo died in mine. So I got Kane dies, Bo doesn't betray you, but dies protecting Faye, 4 alive. I must have done that.
Yeah, so it seems as if he's going to betray you, but then he turns around and he actually doesn't. So I guess that counts as he doesn't betray you.
I'm surprised Kane died.
I was very surprised by it. And also, where's the Japanese policeman go? I'm pretty sure he's in a scene with you, and it's just the two of you.
Yeah, because
you go
get
fight all the
trapped
zombies.
You get chucked down that garbage chute and then work your way back up the...
Where does he go, though? He's just gone by the time you actually go and fight
Oh, yeah.
the general. He just doesn't... He's just not in the story anymore. Very confusing. But I'm not looking that up now. Anyway,
if my Kane stats weren't full, it's Kane's own fault, because he was. They were all bad for it, but he was the absolute worst at jumping in front of me when I'm shooting. I loved that one when I was watching you, and he was doing like these pirouettes in front of you.
Yeah,
and then shouting at you for shooting him.
Yeah, I am a friend, monsieur. Yeah. That was bad.
You were talking. We like to talk about bad accents in this podcast, and you were talking about the bad English accent, the French accent. If either of us were French, it's maybe the worst, most offensive French accent I've ever heard in my life.
It's hard. I always find it hard to tell with stuff like that, because they always like throw in actual parts of the language, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
But of course, to do that in a way that will remain understandable for non-French or whatever the language is speaking people is to do the most bog standard obvious French words that everyone's going to know. Au revoir, bonjour, merci beaucoup, stuff like that. So it does look like that you're just making him say stereotypical stuff that everybody knows. But yeah, I mean, the English ones, Rachel in particular was like, I can't believe this is happening. What are we going to do then? Like, so shit. I would like to, I'm going to try and find out where these people are from, actually.
Well, I didn't think the English guys was that bad, really. He was just, like, super classical.
There was moments where he'd just drop it, but he wasn't too bad, yeah.
I guess
I had Rachel in my team at first because she had a rocket launcher, and I was like, "Well, that sounds useful."
Yeah,
but I couldn't stand listening to her.
Who was your team of choice then? Was it Bo and Faye, or who did you end up with?
No, it's Kane, and I think it was Kane and Faye as well. Actually, sometimes Kane and Bo.
I liked Faye because she had the range that I didn't. I didn't often have a sniper rifle throughout the game, so I thought she would be useful to have.
It's quite funny that it was, did the fucking voice of Charlie?
Who?
Guess.
Oh, Nathan Drake?
Nope, the other one.
Oh, Troy Baker?
Yep.
Was it? Oh my goodness.
Yep. I
Mr.
can't believe
Captain
I didn't realise
NFT himself. Although
you see he's backtracked on that, hasn't he?
Wound back on that, yeah.
Yeah. He was too used to enjoying the future back then, so he's decided, he wants to become part of the whole robotics corporation. Who was the other English person? Rachel. That was done by a woman called Nao Wallace. It's from Detroit, Michigan. So there you go. That explains that. 2 Americans doing an English accent there's plenty of English actors. Plenty of them. Loads of them. 60 million of us. Yeah.
So yeah, I guess we've covered a lot of the characters. Really, I found the dialogue quite painful at times. As much as I enjoyed the game and I enjoyed where the story was going, even if I think it didn't quite pull it off the whole time. See when you meet Faye for the first time and Bo and Dan are talking like, I don't know, like two dudes down the pub try to just be all laddie. I was like, oh my god, this is hurting my brain.
Oh yeah,
this is really hurting my brain.
And do you know what? I think that the biggest failing of this game is in that it hasn't like a grand overarching narrative that's interesting and a premise that's interesting, but it focuses the story largely on this select group of people and their interpersonal relationships. So what you've actually got going on is this like big global conspiracy of these corporations doing all this nefarious shit, but none of that's really playing out in the minute by minute gameplay because you're just too busy arguing with Bo about if you shot him by accident or not. And you're a rush crew trying to track down these hollow children, but really you only come across like one in the slums, and you don't have any interaction with him. He just gets killed in front of you.
Yeah. The
only other hollow children is the one at the beginning who goes into Bergen's company and then causes a shootout there, and the one come here for a shootout, and then the one who was the general in the army.
Yeah, the general in the army, the guy having the shootout, the guy in the slums. Then there was the little kid.
Oh, sorry, yeah, Shindo's mate.
Yeah, and that was it.
And so,
all right, it turns out that Amada is also kind of a hollow child. But he looks like an old man, and he knows he's a hollow child.
Yeah, he is a hollow child, isn't he? You're right, yeah, because he kind of built himself.
Yeah.
And put the AIs, yeah. Although, no, he was the AI, wasn't he, that then built himself because he then trapped Amada in his lab.
Yeah.
He just gets totally mad by the end. But yeah, like, for 90% of the game... yeah, of course it is, yeah.
I'm on sort of a perpetual trek to try and find anime I like. This is one. I've found one.
Yeah, I would say that this has definitely got that type of anime take on Ghost in the Shell kind of thing.
Maybe I should try Ghost in the Shell. I'm going to write that down.
I didn't like Ghost in the Shell. It's very talky.
Is Akira any good?
Yes.
No, there is another anime that I liked as well. The book one where he writes in the book.
Death Note.
Yeah, that's good
excellent.
That's an
excellent.
I
love Death Note. Yeah, that's really good.
And I kind of on and off liked the one about the giants. Attack on Titan, yeah. I've only seen season 1 of that though.
You've not watched One Punch Man yet, have you?
No.
You need to watch that. You'll find that really good because it's really it's really aware of what it's trying to be. It's very tongue in cheek and silly, in a good way, like in an intelligent way.
Okay, yeah, I'll give that. I'll give that a go. Oh, Cowboy Bebop's another one I need to watch.
That's fucking excellent. That's on Netflix now. Every single episode is based around a different genre of music.
I tried to watch the live action and I didn't.
I
didn't drive with that too much.
No, the series is great though. But yeah, like the grander scheme of it never really comes into play. They're just kind of almost separated from it. They're just doing their own little action adventure in the middle of and away from all the interesting stuff. And that's when all this cheesy dialogue just becomes overwhelming because it never really touches on the bits you're actually interested in. It's just all this silly nonsense.
I'm at a bit of a crossroads with that, and I realise the sort of silliness of my positioning, that I find the dialogue in this really quite off-putting. And like what I would find that I like about, so like if they were going to do that, if I was going to write this and I was like forced to have a character like Dan in it, I'd make him change over the course of the story. So by the end,
nobody changes, do they?
No one changes. There's no character arcs. They are who they are from the start to the end. In saying that, like what I'm saying is my position is probably untenable, and that like I do absolutely love like a 90s movie where there's like like a Sylvester Stallone wisecracking tough guy that doesn't really like, they don't change. So why does it bother me in this game but it doesn't bother me in those movies? I guess maybe because this game, I feel like this game's shooting to be intelligent and have something to say.
That's exactly the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
It's shooting for that, but it plays out through these really one-dimensional, silly characters. You're right. Dan does nothing to change. He starts off, as you say, like ladding it up with his mate, and then he always calls her Faye like farm girl. He's really like impulsive. And then he gets it on with her, and then she's like in love with the dude, and he becomes this like moralistic guy by the end.
Yeah.
But he himself is no different, really. He just gets a bit more serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
they're better than that. This they are better than that as a company, as a set of. I don't know who work. I've not cross-referenced the Yakuza team versus this team. But they are better than that.
Team, is it, or is this someone? Yeah, this is. So they are. So they can. Well, I guess that's an interesting sort of thing to touch upon, though. Like, because Yakuza can do the silly and wrap it up with serious and intermingle and have proper character development.
It's always very separated, though. It's always side quests silly, main quests incredibly serious.
Right.
And without that in that way, without that potential to segregate it in this game, because it's all very linear. Yeah, it just switches between the two when it decides rather than when you decide.
So if they made, so I'm looking at this. This is actually, because you've caught my interest here. Oh, actually, Toshiro Nagoshi is an extremely cool looking dude. I've just seen a picture.
He kind of looks a little bit like he's had a lot of work done, though.
Yeah,
very strangely looking eyebrows.
Yeah, he does look a bit fake. Anyway,
but he is like the godfather of the Yakuza series, so he's clearly a pretty cool dude. But he's left. I don't know what he's going to do now.
I'm looking at this. I wonder if there's bits missed out here, because I'm looking at, I'm looking at this Ryu Gatoku.
Call him RGG. That's what we all call him in the Yakuza Reddit.
Like I'm looking at it says their first game was Binary Domain in 2012. And then they also did Yakuza 5 in 2012 as well. So did they not do 1, 2, 3, and 4? Is my question. It must have
been under somebody else then.
Because they've done all the remasters, and then they did like Yakuza 0. This is they've got a game Ryuga Gotoku Ishin as well.
Yeah, because it's
what is
I think that's what
I've never heard of this game.
So there's a whole spin-off of Yakuza games set in like Edo period Japan, basically like samurai stuff that's never come over here.
Like
everybody wants it.
It's a spin-off game known in English localization as Yakuza. So is this like a...
Yeah,
you explain what this is. You know what it is.
So Ryuga Gotoku it translates to like a dragon. That's what it means.
So there's a Yakuza Like a Dragon game, is there not?
Yeah, that's the set. That's 7. Yes, the one that came out is like turn based.
So is this like an old timey Yakuza then? This
Ishin ones are, yeah. So it's all the characters like Kiryu and Majima, but in like samurai times.
is those characters.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is like a weird spin-off sort of thing, like a
Yeah, but it's never come out in the West, and
Wow.
everyone's wanting a translated trilogy to come out over here. Like it'll be the big thing that everyone loses their mind over.
Wow. Wonder
So
why
I'm seeing it.
that is that's sort of just like a reimagining, and they're taking
I
like
would
the
love.
the
I'd
Yakuza
love to
world
play
and
it.
characters and just putting it back in time.
Kind of like Blackadder, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
different era, but the same people are all in it.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Well, I'm seeing here when I go on there on the. Oh no, hang on. This is the Yakuza franchise, isn't it? Oh, hang on. We need the developer, Ryuga Kotoku Studio. That's what you're looking at, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I am indeed.
Maybe they just changed their name. I think they just changed the name. I think they were called Amusement Vision for a
They
bit.
could have done, because I'm reading other projects and they've got one detour for the team was the game Binary Domain. I don't think you can call the first game in their catalogue a detour. So it must have changed their name.
And because the guy who Toshihiro Nagoshi is the guy who created Super Monkey Ball as well.
Yes, they've got this one here. Yeah, and he was also apparently a senior planner for Jet Set Radio.
Yeah, and he worked on the GameCube F-Zero game as well, which everyone seems to think is the best one.
Interesting. This guy.
Yeah, he's done some cool shit. I like him. Yeah. So it was dissolved. Here we go. It was dissolved as part of new entertainment R&D department, and the development of Yakuza was progressing.
Interesting.
You're right, though. It does. When you see it here, yeah, it does say Binary Domain. It's the first one.
Yeah, it's really odd. You're right, though, and they must have dissolved it and sort of Is this like a Rangers football club scenario? It just sort of Rangers football club seems to exist, it ceases to exist, and then they pop up with the same players, the same manager, the same ground, the same training pictures called the Rangers football club.
Let's go. I mean, we're not doing the obvious thing here, are we? I should just go click on the first Yakuza game. It was developed by Sega NE R&D.
Sega nerd.
Oh yeah, but the producer there was Toshihiro Nagoshi. So I don't know enough about the origins of this team now to understand.
Maybe
because the developer of number 2 was apparently Sega.
Maybe he
and
just
the third
became
one was
such a
Sega
big...
CS1. I think Sega have just been dicking about with the names of the studios,
and then just slapping Toshihiro around, because he seems to be the one common through line between all the Yakuza games.
Doesn't seem to have a lot to do with the second one. Sorry, the third one. Second one wasn't on that one either.
He joined. Oh, interesting. Toshihiro joined Sega in 1989 as a designer. As Sega began developing 3D games such as Virtua Racing, he was able to apply his knowledge of film in choosing the right camera angles in three-dimensional spaces, something that other team members had no experience with. Nagoshi became producer, director, and chief designer of Daytona USA, which became one of the most successful arcade games of all time. Next, he worked on another racing game called Scud Race. So I don't know if this is a Scottish thing or a British thing. But if someone was to give you a scudding, what would that be in England?
I've never heard of that. A scud's just like a missile. That's the only thing I would know.
A scud is like a kick in the backside up here.
Nice.
Because another one for getting us like, I don't know, what would the Britishism would be a smacked bum. The Americanism would be a spanked bottom, I guess. The Scottishism was a scudded arse. So
yeah, it'd be a smack
that's
bum.
why it made me laugh. Yeah, he said apparently he felt pressure to constantly deliver racing games for the company. He developed Spike Out, which he described as a personal rebellion, as it was a character-based action game where players could play for a long time with just one credit. Though, that must be in the arcades. Profits for the arcade operators suffered, and Nagoshi requested his own development division during the development of Shenmue. Interesting. This man's had a interesting career, but I suppose we're not here to talk about old Nagoshi.
Well, obviously he's part of the binary domain. At least we're keeping it slightly on point.
Talking about irreverent humour, I don't know if it was deliberate or not, but I found the vending machines in this game extremely funny. The fact that you could just access a vending machine mid-fight at any point.
I did it in boss fight, didn't I, last night? I'm assuming you probably did as well.
Yeah,
for that same gorilla one. Christ, that gorilla was hard.
Yeah, he was tough. I think that was
the hardest boss in the game.
Yeah, exactly where I was going with that. Hardest boss in the game. What was the other? The other one I think you got through it first time, but the other bit I had trouble with was when the English female, what's she called, Rachel? Is that right?
Yeah.
When she was hanging off the lift with all those little monkey robots jumping on, and you had to shoot them off. I honestly had to do that about 6 times.
It was the bit before that got me, because I'd forgotten or never noticed that you could hold down the reload button to do his, what was it, the pulse blast thing?
You can wreck shop at the end of the game with that thing, just wiping out waves of enemies with it.
Yeah, but there was 3 barriers as you're trying to, when they're getting that drowning bit, there's 3 barriers that block you off, and I could not figure out how to get past them.
Oh, were you stuck?
For like 10 minutes, because they drown really slowly. So in the end I just dove in the water and looked it up. Yeah, it was really annoying.
Another thing that I quite liked, I thought the pace, I was going to say the pacing in this game was good. I actually thought the bits, like we spoke about at the beginning, how it would just force you to walk places, and quite often during the forced walking sections I'd walk in the wrong direction, so then I'd have to retrace my steps.
They get annoyed if you go the wrong way for too long.
Oh, do they?
That will get that's part of the system.
Oh well, maybe that's why.
I got some down arrows once when I ran the wrong way. Yeah.
Wait, in the middle of a battle, you're just off. You just run the wrong direction. I thought that they did well with the pacing, and that I really, really appreciated and enjoyed it when they would break up the action with like sliding down a big long slide section. You had to dodge out the way of those pipes at the very beginning, or the jet ski section, or there's the driving sections. Like, I just thought those sections were just like fun and sort of whimsically they just sort of nicely break up the action.
I would say they paced the gameplay perfectly.
Yeah.
But unfortunately they shoved in a lot of talking and a lot of cutscenes that a lot of the time probably weren't needed, because it's just a lot they do a lot of arguing this lot. A lot of arguing with each other.
You're right in that, though. There was a lot of the time where like honestly felt like some cutscenes were going on for like 20 minutes. And
that's again the Yakuza way.
Yeah.
There was one where I had a cutscene and then I walked down a corridor and triggered another cutscene. Why do games do that? Why do games think that you're going to enjoy the fact that I get to walk to the next one by myself?
Oh, I don't know. So especially because that's so easily solved. Like, you don't have to have the corridor.
Just ignore that.
Yeah, just have them.
Or show him walking in the cut.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the biggest problem for me, is that it broke up the gameplay a little too often. But as you say, it wasn't always just walking around or running around, getting behind cover, shooting guys, which was, we'll get to it probably in a bit, I suppose, or now. But it was really well done in terms of, I don't know how this game would have ran if we weren't playing this with a 60 FPS boost on the Series X consoles, because I don't remember hating it, but there's a lot of stuff going on. If you look at like the amount of stuff that comes flying off all the enemies, because it's a really cool system that you can kind of like just dismantle these robots and shoot all the armor off, shoot their legs off and the arms and their heads and stuff. But there's bits of scrap metal flying absolutely everywhere. And it runs fine now, but it probably ran absolutely terribly back in the day.
I bet it did.
But so yeah, that was fine, and it was enjoyable to play, and that maybe they could have a bit more variation in the enemy types, but it wasn't just sort of constantly stuck to that. This is such an Xbox 360 Xbox 360 game, right? I mean,
Oh yeah,
it's
100%.
so like influenced by everything else that was coming around. And you think about it again, stuff like Gears. That again, you'd look at in a glance and think it was just all shooty, chainsawy stuff, but that had a lot of like vehicle sections and minecart bits and stuff like that. It's very similar to that in the way that it would break it up with just a little bit turret section 2, 3, 4 or whatever.
Yeah, and you're right actually. Then because like I came into this thinking it was a game I really enjoyed and enjoyed what it was shooting for. Like I say, even if it doesn't always deliver, but it was to me just like a poor Gears of War clone. You're right though that in many ways it was that. Like they had the minecart section in this game, they had the driving section in this game, they had the boss fights in this game. They're all very Gears of War like. It was almost like a sort of Japanese take on a Gears of War game.
100%. Set
in the future. You're not shooting against humans generally. Like, yeah, I think you're right. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but you're right.
No?
It's very much a sort of product of its time, isn't it? Like I'd be interested to see what a modern day Binary Domain 2 would look like.
Yeah.
Especially now that they've sort of honed their craft even more with the Yakuza games. Are they better than ever, the Yakuza games? I don't know.
Well, they pivot, and this is the key thing, is that they pivoted obviously the latest Yakuza title to a turn-based RPG. And they've kept the action-based gameplay in the Judgment series, and he actually brought that up in this article that he did with, well, it looks like Video Games Chronicle, but they may have got it from somewhere else. But he brought up the fact that we've changed Like a Dragon, we've switched it to make it more of an RPG, and he said third-person shooter was also the genre that best matched Binary Domain. The dramatic story for our studio is at the center of everything, so the genre is then created to best match how that story flows. So it seems as if he was potentially hinting at they may make it a different type of game in future if they felt it fitted it better. But of course, that's probably not going to happen now because he's not there. So
do you know where he went?
I don't know.
I could just click on his name here in front of my face.
It just says he's left both Sega and Ryuga Gotoku, along with series director Daisuke Sato.
He's only
doesn't say where he's gone.
1989 to 2021. That is that.
Can't blame him, I guess.
Is that an exclusively Japanese thing? They tend to stick with companies a long time. Like Nintendo is littered with people that have sort of dedicated their lives to that company.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just not a thing really in the UK so much.
No, or America.
No.
I mean, you and I both listened to Jason Schreier's books, and these people seem to stick around for a couple of games at most, and then they're shunted out to somewhere else, or they're headhunted by someone else. Because he's been chief producer on loads of stuff, this guy. He was on like Bayonetta, some of the Phantasy Star stuff, Valkyria Chronicles, even on Sonic Unleashed. So yeah, he's done a lot of stuff while he was there. And it looks as if he has just been, he was the general director of RGG. So
I guess it's a deliberate.
Doesn't really get a game credit anymore.
No, well, this is the thing I was kind of getting at. It's a deliberate ploy, I would assume, by the games industry, in that they don't sort of attach. Like Sid Meier's the one that jumps out to me as like people, like developers' names that get attached to franchises and series,
like an auteur.
Like that. Yeah, like. Well, the obvious one is Hideo Kojima, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's not Hideo Kojima's Metal Gear Solid. People that just know the games industry, know where he is and what he's up to. It's I think it's a bit of a shame actually that these important people, two companies, get sort of deliberately buried underneath the company name for no other reason than because if they became big enough, they'd be able to command bigger salaries and go off and do their own thing if they wanted to. That's really the only reason for it, right?
It's easier to remember a company's name, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's easier for people to talk about what Sega have done than this guy, Toshiro Nagoshi, or whoever.
Which is,
you listen to those Jason Schreier books. I hadn't heard of any of these people, but they've worked on massive games at massive companies.
Exactly, and you don't know.
And I know the companies in the games, but I didn't know them.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting the ones that sort of pop up, and now that I'm saying it, I'm blanking on his name, but which is kind of undermining my point a little bit. But it's my inability to remember names rather than the guy that did Call of Duty Modern Warfare and then Apex Legends, Titanfall.
Not Zampella.
Yeah, Vince Zampella. He's probably a modern day one, isn't he, as well? A guy that's sort of made a big name and he's become bigger now. Now he's sort of heading up DICE. So we'll see what he does with the Battlefield franchise, I guess. But yeah, I find these sort of big names that make their way around. Cliff Bleszinski was another example of one. Yeah, he started Boss Key Studios and then has sort of drifted off into the...
They did that BR game, right? That just totally flopped. Was it a BR game? Like a hero shooter?
Yeah, I think they tried that. Yeah, they tried to make a game and then they did this hero shooter because that was sort of the big thing at the moment, wasn't it? And I don't remember the name of any of them. They did, but yeah, I'm just like having a quick drift through this guy's... This guy was attached to Bayonetta, Yakuza 3. Valkyria
it's interesting that he seems to have written the stories for the Judgment games. In his role, it says based on a story by, and he's like the director. So he's obviously writing all these like crime dramas as well, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, I guess that probably links back to his interest in movies.
Yeah, apparently he named the Kazuma Kiryu. He named that after somebody close to him in his real life. Apparently, but yeah, you're right. And it's the last game he did for Sega seems to have been Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania, which came out just towards the end of last year before he left.
Interesting CV.
Very interesting. Yeah, he's done a lot of cool stuff, including this. I know that we're out with this now. What do we want to talk about now?
What did you think about the boss fights and stuff that were through the game? Was there any that, other than obviously the big monkey one that was a pain in the neck for you?
Yeah, the one with the big turret gun where he just would walk to the side of it and hit me off it.
Faye to reload your gun for you because it never worked for me.
Twice, I think. Yeah.
Okay, I never got it. I had to do all that. I don't know what she did. She was doing a lot of lying on the ground, I think.
Waddling about with ammo while she's dying in the corner.
I quite enjoy most of them. I think I said this to you before, but like the sort of key like boss moments, or like when you're climbing up the robot chandelier that you had to have a fight with at one point.
Oh yeah.
Like I feel like they just go on about 1.5 times as long as they should. Like even the bit where the boss fight where Kane jumps on the back of one of the big robots and hacks it so that you can then enter a boss fight and start shooting on. That just goes on for far too long. Yeah. Far too long. Like everything could be like half the length, I think. Would probably be fine for a lot of the things. And I find a lot of there's bits and pieces like kind of on that kind of tangentially, bits and pieces of the gameplay that I found quite irritating, in that like there was bits where you would get shot and knocked over and the sort of attack combinations were such that I would get hit like 2 or 3 times before I could even stand up again. That was irritating. And then there was like it would just completely remove control from you, and I hate games that just completely remove control from the player. And like on that as well, like the jet ski section, for example, it was so easy to just get it sort of dunted into the water that would just take all your momentum away. The fun part of that section and like skidding down the hill was the fact that your character was moving fast and you were skidding around all these roadblocks and stuff, and it just kept taking that away from you in those sections, and I just found that extremely irritating.
Yeah.
What did you do in terms of sort of buy-in upgrades and things like that? Because as we were speaking about last night, I didn't really dig into the nanomachine stuff. Did you?
No, you didn't. Yeah. And I would always basically buy all of them for the people I had in my party.
And did you go nanomachines? Because I went purely just upgrading guns for everyone. Would you go nanomachines and then spend the rest of your money on gun upgrades?
I would, if I came to a store and I had loads of credits, I would start off by upgrading some stuff for my character. Then I would look at what nanomachines were there, and then I'd spend whatever I had left over on the next best character in my party that I wanted to be good. And pick and choose, like min-max their stats for them. So mainly just like power or whatever it was. Firing power, fire rate, accuracy. I felt like if I made them more accurate, they would be less useless. I don't know if they were.
That's one thing. I think I said it to you last night that I thought the game did really well, was sort of developing a really fun and engaging and rewarding upgrade structure.
Absolutely.
Because you touched on it before that like, you could one criticism of this game would maybe be that there a lack of sort of variation in enemies, but one thing that I think that did well for that was that you saw a clear change and maneuverability between like as you upgraded your character. So like at the beginning, like the odd robot would just take a pummeling, but by the end you were just mowing down lots and lots of these enemies, and I quite enjoyed that. There were sections of the game where I was just like they would like what felt like about 10 enemies would come out a door at you and you'd just be like wasting them, and it was just so much that just felt really rewarding to me at the end of the game.
Yeah, you're just tearing limbs off the suckers, and you missed it because you may have missed it. I don't know. You were watching. You must have left it on because you were there the whole time.
Yeah.
And I kept like trying to talk to kind of keep you interested while I knew you were watching me. But there was one bit, and it must have been the zombies bit where they all just come at you, and I was just constant headshots. I would just aim at a specific level because they were all like gank squads. They weren't shooting at me because they're like mob enemies that run at you. It's just the ping noise for the headshots was outrageous. It was just so fun. The headshot mechanic actually in this game is excellent. The fact that I found them quite difficult to get, certainly at the beginning because I hadn't upgraded the accuracy, which I felt like by the end it was a lot easier to handle the gun. But the fact that you can headshot on a robot and then it loses its combat programming or whatever, and it can't tell friend from foe. Which I found hilarious because they said that as if like you'll confuse it, but you never confused it. It would just shoot its comrades. It would never carry on shooting you ever again.
No, that'd be
so. It's almost like it swapped friend and foe around. It's not like it was confused. It just changed allegiances and never fought you ever again, and only ever fought his own mates. But yeah, I found that was quite a cool thing. Mixing like shoot them in the head, they'll shoot their own mates, or shoot their legs off and they'll crawl at you really slowly. I thought was just kept everything ticking along quite nicely and making it interesting. On top of or underneath of what you're saying is this excellent upgrade system that actually felt like they didn't scale the enemies to ruin that, and they made you feel powerful by the end, which you should be doing.
Yeah, I really liked that they did that. One of the things that I wanted to ask you about, did you engage with the voice commands at all?
No,
did you
not
try
for a
them?
second.
It was a combination between like they worked surprisingly well. However, for some reason the game seemed to want you to shout at it. So it would be like when I ended up turning it off, but I did the first half of them with them on, and you press LB and then you'd say what it wanted you to say, and it would just act as if you hadn't said anything. You actually had to shout at it. I assume they're just trying to recreate the fact that you're in a battle and they want you to be really excited and shout, but like, yeah,
not practical anymore, is it?
No, especially like when you're people like us and like you've maybe got family members in bed and trying to sleep.
Yeah,
and you're just screaming at Bo.
You fool! So I felt like, I mean, if you look at reviews of it, they seem to suggest that a lot of people thought that they worked quite well, and maybe that's because the game kind of funnels you down the responses you're supposed to give, whereas if it gave you full-on autonomy to say whatever you wanted and it was supposed to be picking up keywords, that would probably be an absolute clusterfuck, and you'd never get it to work.
No.
So I just felt like sometimes the responses just didn't make any sense. By the way, I spammed "love you" to Faye every time I possibly could towards the end of the game.
Did she respond to any of it? Because it just hurt my insides too much to be able to even test that.
Yeah, but this was the point where she was shooting at me, so she just kept being like, "Oh yeah, well, you say that, but you didn't protect me, did you? Or you didn't side with me, did you?" So it was too late for me to actually get her to respond in a nice way because she's trying to snipe me from a balcony while I'm saying it.
It sounds like
but every time she had a go at me, I was just like, "Love you."
Yeah, it sounds like some of your ex-girlfriends, Alex.
Yeah. Trying to snipe me from a balcony. Guys, an absolute fucking nightmare, mate. Bitches be sniping.
It's a tough life. I think.
Yeah, I never tried the voice thing, but you said you struggled because of your accent, did you?
From time to time, but the more I engaged with it, the more I realised that if I just shouted at it, it understood. So I can't, like, this is, I guess I'm kind of muddling it, but what I'm saying is I can't decide whether it just wasn't understanding what I was saying, or if it just wanted me to shout. And I kind of, I've eventually come down on the side that it just wants me to shout at it.
It does say that at one point, like,
Yeah.
shout at the top of your lungs. Do you think? What's your thought on squad mechanics? Do you like them?
In the
Can
game,
you live without them? In any game, really.
I rarely use them in games. I'm trying to think of other games that have got them. Never used them in Mass Effect. Never used them in Binary Domain. The only game I can think that I've ever used squad mechanics in is the old Brothers in Arms games. They were really good because that actually, I remember watching a developer diary on this, and they all games always say this, but they had sort of like drafted in old like war vets and people that worked in sort of like combat intelligence and mechanics and stuff like that to try and recreate how your characters moved around, and that wanted you to sort of state how that manifested in Brothers in Arms was it basically wanted you to stay in one spot, provide cover and fire while you sent your attackers round, your sort of teammates round to try and flank, and that was basically what you did the whole time. That's the only time, but no, as a general rule, no, I don't engage with them. I just try and do everything myself and just leave them to it.
Yeah, because obviously in this game, they won't, if your affinity rating with your teammates is too low, they won't even respond to your comments, or they will respond, but they won't do what you tell them to.
Do it, yeah. Did you engage with it?
I did, yeah. I did quite. I mean, towards the end, I was trying to make it like look more like a film or something. So I was always like hanging back and taking cover, and then making them charge in to see if they're going to get ambushed, and then I'd run in behind them. But most of the time, I was just using cover me when I wanted to get up close and use some shotgun damage. I never felt like they did cover me, and then fire, just telling them to shoot stuff.
How did you get on with
I didn't mind it. I didn't mind it because you do get swarmed sometimes by especially those our favourite ones, the red ones with just basically the same animation as the green ones, but sped up two times.
Yeah,
and those ones were quite good that you could just like pump them for you don't even have to aim, just blind fire shotgun at them. This game is very similar to Vanquish, which is another.
That was the game I was trying to remember in my head. That's if that's not on our list of games to play.
Yeah, it is.
That's getting on there.
In that it can give you a sniper rifle that's relatively effective, but there are hardly any scenarios that are viable to snipe.
Yeah,
because it's always close quarters combat. It's fast paced, and your better gun is always the machine gun. So I never got really a chance to do it. If you could make Bo like run out in the back and then snipe from a distance, but there was very rarely times to do that. So yeah, I feel like maybe the whole voice command squad controls thing was a bit shoehorned in unnecessarily. It doesn't. It's not a bad fit because you've got this system where it will change the endings if they like you, but you got through it without ever engaging with it. So
I don't know whether it's an age thing either, but like maybe it would fit better nowadays, because I feel like back in the day, like when this game came out, I don't know if playing with headsets was the norm. Was it? Whereas now, to me, like
does this strike you as a Kinect idea? Would it have worked with that?
Maybe. I guess what the sort of one good thing about the Xbox 360 is, did they not ship a headset with every console, so everyone would have had one. But yeah, I don't know whether
didn't some Tom Clancy games try and do it? Was there a Tom Clancy game totally based
games,
around it?
I remember doing it, and there's some Tom Clancy games. You're right. I'm just trying to think of like, I don't like this thing. The thing I'm struggling with is like, is it me that's changed, or like I feel like the norm now is to play a game with a headset. Like if you're playing games properly and you're really into your games, you want to play games with a headset on, unless you're a child. Is that
they've got headsets on to play Fortnite, haven't they?
Yeah, so. Yeah. Is that new, or is that?
It's new for me.
Because well, that's what I'm thinking. Is it new for us, or is that new? Full stop.
I mean, you wouldn't have played. Depends how far back you want to go, but there's no way you're playing Sonic the Hedgehog with a pair of headphones on.
No, yeah, perhaps it is. Maybe it's more the rise of sort of online shooters.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I did not have a headset for PS3 or 360. I'd never touch anything like that. It would be to play online, but it would be that one that came with it, which is like a one foam thing and a mic. But I wasn't playing like 5.1 headsets until last generation and now.
Yeah.
But now I'd always, as you say, I'm not going to play without it because that's my surround sound.
Yeah.
And also my way to not get shouted at by my wife.
Yeah, I just you're right. Like, I just wouldn't play a game now with it. Well, yeah, I would play like Mario and stuff like that. But like as a general rule, if I'm playing a game, I've generally got a headset on to play with it.
Yeah,
which is an interesting change in our sort of behavior for playing games.
Yeah, but in
so
this
maybe,
scenario,
I guess what I'm getting with that is maybe it would have been a better fit nowadays.
Yeah, because it seems very, very gimmicky. It's like a fad, and I feel like I want to find out what that Tom Clancy, because there was definitely like some sort of Tom Clancy game that was just like all to do with voice commands. But
it wasn't that. Is it Ruse? Was that a Tom Clancy game?
Yeah, how the fuck did you pull that out of the air?
Right,
that is exactly the game I'm talking about.
Can't remember names, but give me a video game and I'll remember it. No bother. That's
the
only reason I know I've not got
RTS that you
Alzheimer's.
used. Yeah,
can't remember.
That's exactly
names.
the same sort of thing for me. Yeah, whenever I start to think, oh, my memory's going a bit, and then I think about some absolute obscure bollocks to do with a video game, I'm like, nah, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Go back and pick up like an N64 game and remember how to do the backflip in Banjo-Kazooie. Like, yeah, hold down Z and press A. I'm fine, mate.
Oh, genuinely, I'm glad you say that because I honestly have these conversations with myself probably once a week where I'm like, am I turning stupid? And then I'm just like, nah, I can only recall things that I'm interested in. That's the only thing. If I'm not interested in, I can't recall it. So.
Yeah, I was having a conversation about the Yakuza games with somebody the other day and was telling him parts of Kamurocho, like where Tenkaichi Street is, and I'm like, my memory's fine. Absolutely fine.
Absolutely fine, don't worry about it. It's just like maybe when we get put in our old folks' homes, I remember like visiting grandparents in there and they'd be talking about things they did as a children or like Italian kids
as if it's just happened the other day, right?
Maybe I'm just going to be like whipping out binary domain facts to these nurses looking after me.
Yeah.
Tell them about my back-to-back wins in Apex Legends.
Do you remember when that hollow child had an actual human baby? That was a weird bit of news, wasn't it? Like, what? When did this happen? You're like, her name was Faye. She had a robot mum. Do you not remember that being in the news?
Talking about the time a friend and I just, when Seer came out, double teaming, just like absolutely using his ult to the maximum ability against someone and just creaming them.
David, time for your bath. I knew you were coming. I could use my wall hacks to see you. I could pop my ultimate before you came up the stairs.
If you could pop a real ultimate, whose would you take?
What, from Apex Legends?
From Apex Legends, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to have to try and think what they actually are now. I mean, surely Valkyries, right? Just fly away.
Just fly off.
Yeah.
If your wife's giving you some cheek, you're just like, straight up.
Yeah, if I fancy some, Italian food for dinner, see you later. Jetpack myself off.
Imagine you did that. You were like, right, I'm going to go for Italian, right? So you fly off to the Italian restaurant, you get there and it's closed. You're going to have to sit around and wait for about 20 minutes to let your thing fill up again before you can go home again.
Gotta wait for my cooldown to kick in.
Yeah.
that is it. And she doesn't really get a lot of distance on it, to be fair. I'd have to hope that they'd somehow set up some jump towers in between here and Italy, and I'd be all right. So I could get to the first jump tower, and then we've got to go up that rope, and then we'll just keep going until we get to pizza restaurant or whatever.
I was going to say, would you not take Caustic? But I feel like if you've got an IBS attack, you're not a million miles away from him anyway.
Oh, it's bad, isn't it? I had that the other day. And the baby was like quite nearby. I just thought, I'm poisoning this poor little fucker. But I'm trying to think who else there is. I mean, a lot of them are obviously, ways to murder people. So I don't necessarily want something that would do that. I wouldn't want Mad Maggie's thing because, it's only going to make you fast for a little bit. And that
Oh,
ball,
yeah.
you can't trust that. That's going to wreck some. That's going to wreck up a multi-story car park,
You're
isn't it?
going down for your tea, just lobbing it out the bed, out your bedroom.
Alex, come on, the tea's getting cold. Don't worry about that.
Accidentally hits coal on the way down. Just like,
I mean, there's a care. You could get the care package from Lifeline. That would be handy, depending on what it's going to give you.
take Octane, actually. He might be quite fun.
Or jump pad, yeah.
Yeah.
If that would get you far enough to get to work. Same with the
Yeah.
jetpack. If I could just do the Valkyrie thing and get to work like that, that'd be fine.
And if your knee slided into the jump pad, then you went further.
Imagine if you just did it like Sears one, and you just like chuck down the fucking wall hack in your house, and all you can just see is Annie walking about. You're like, well, I could have seen that anyway.
Yeah, what was the point in that one?
Somebody walks past the front of your house. It's like, well, that's fine. I had a ring doorbell anyway, so I knew they were there. So I've technically already got Sears thing. I've got the ring doorbell.
Yeah.
So I've already got one. Just pings off like people walking their dog in front of my house at like 2:00 in the afternoon when I'm at work.
I take it we're not
There's
going...
somebody at your door. No, there isn't.
I take it we're not going Bangalore.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't want to murder loads of people with hers or jibbies.
No.
There's no need for any of that. Yet.
Yet.
What else is there? I mean, again, Bloodhound, you can run faster, you can see stuff. Don't really know what use I'd get out of that.
Yeah.
Not much use from Ramparts one either. Or Watson. No, it has to be Valkyrie. It's got to be Valkyrie.
Yeah, it's the
Just
only
a
one that
working
is
jetpack.
like useful in a peaceful context, really.
Yeah, pretty much.
Every other one, you just have to use it and just take up like paintballing or something and just become an absolute beast.
Yeah, you pop Watson's and you're like, great, my shield's going to regenerate and no one can throw a grenade from my window, so I'm
Yeah.
all right.
Lifeline
Put
might
that
be
next to your bed every night. That's depending on what's going to be in it. So if she's going to drop down, the latest PS5 game,
Yeah.
that'd be lovely. Just out the window, chuck it out the back garden.
Well, you get a new
Yeah.
helmet, so maybe you get a new hat at the drop of it. At the drop of a hat, yeah.
And it's like an upgrade every time.
Yeah.
It upgrades your shoes to get more and more expensive, like Air Jordans or whatever.
What's the
That'd be
ultimate
pretty good.
upgrade hat though? Is it that hat with the clapping hands on the front?
No, it's a fucking
The
foam
one
dome,
with
innit?
the beer cans.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Binary Domain podcast, everybody.
Yeah, welcome back. I think we've largely like talking binary domain. I think we've covered. I've covered all that I kind of had to say on this game. I don't know if there's something that we've not covered that you feel like there's to talk about.
No, I just think that I was really pleased to see that number one in 2022, this got a 60 FPS boost, or maybe 2021 late on. That means that someone's thinking about it for some. I mean, I know there's often been rumors that Microsoft's going to buy Sega, and that Sega have obviously got this relationship with Microsoft where they put loads of stuff on Game Pass and they're getting a lot of recognition on that platform. So I was really pleased to see that this got some attention to make it better and playable, and it definitely is. And also, that it's outside of the clunky dialogue and the silly bits, it still plays really, really well. Like in terms of a third-person shooter, there aren't many that are necessarily better than this in terms of the guns feel good, the mechanics are fine, like the sprinting's fine, the getting behind cover works, the rolling works.
Yep.
It's really action heavy, so it's like a third-person shooter, but it's not dull. It's always moving. It's a very kinetic, fast game. So it was just the interspersing everything with these cutscenes after cutscenes after cutscenes that hampered it a little bit. Even if they were exciting cutscenes, after a while, if you're doing a cutscene and then like a minute's worth of game and then a cutscene, that's when you start to lose me.
Yeah,
But it was balanced well, and the upgrade systems were great. And I just wish there was more of this stuff, because the premise could have been dealt with a lot better. There's a lot more to deal with the under the surface stuff of this than they did in this game, because they focused on arguing with English people.
Knowing what you know
Who
about
aren't even
the
English.
Yakuza games, do you think a modern day 2022 Toshihiro Nagoshi does a better version of this if he did a Binary Domain 2?
He seemed to want to.
Mm-hmm.
Because what did he actually say? They said that he said he wanted to make a few changes, but in the body of the article, I can't actually see it. But personally, I'd really like to, if possible, I'd like to make a few changes that I didn't quite get to back then, and maybe redo some parts. Is what he said he would want to do.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see that. I've got this weird thing with games that are of this sort of age, in that, like, when I started playing Binary Domain, I was like, oh my god, this game looks bad.
You did say that to me, yeah.
Visually looks like ass. But see, by the end of it, I'm like, no, it doesn't. It looks absolutely fine.
There's a bit of, like, jagged edges and stuff like that, but yeah, when I put it on, I was surprised.
They just seem a bit. They're just not as detailed, I guess. I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what I get from it. But yeah, I'm not sure why I feel like that with those games, because it's a consistent feeling I get with these games.
It kind of played it safe at times, didn't it? Because it was like there's a lot of like just pristine whites and greys and stuff.
I think Mirror's Edge did a lot of this as well, and I think that if you're working, like we spoke about this when we were streaming last night, like the Xbox 360 has got some like 312 megabytes of RAM. Like, it's not got a lot of memory to be playing with, and it, like we were saying, like, it is performing some sort of wizardry to be putting out these types of games. I guess.
This is quite late in its life cycle.
Yeah, and I guess having a sci-fi environment that is quite pristine looking and sort of designing your game in that way means that you can have clean environments that means smoother textures with less detail, and it can still look as good. Whereas if you're like in a grungy old neighborhood with like litter everywhere and different colored lights and like dirt and grime, like I'm saying the same thing multiple times, but basically if you're sort of in this old lived in space, to make it look detailed you've got to add a lot more to it and make it look lifelike, whereas this you can just sort of have just clean straight lines, even sort of the cliche version of like a modern, like a futuristic car plays well.
Cars in this game as well, which made me laugh.
Plays well into the sort of jagged, straight edge, clean, undetailed sort of mechanic. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the visual style of this like exists in a place in time before like cyberpunk stuff became the vogue.
Yeah.
This is a very like, it's not like a Blade Runner Cyberpunk 2077 look, which you feel like a lot of futuristic set games now are gonna just fucking absolutely pump themselves full of neon and all these big Japanese like writing and stuff. And this game was set in Tokyo, a place that actually has that in real life right now.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have any of it in this game. It's all just Mass Effect or slums, and that's basically it.
Yeah.
So slightly disappointing in that sense, but I think the character models and stuff and the animations are all, and the, like I said earlier on, all the stuff to do with the robots flying all over the screen, which clearly took up a lot of the processing power. I think that's probably where the resources went, taken away from, as you said, having these pristine basic backdrops and lower textures to allow all these things to go flying across the screen is probably where they stacked it or bottlenecked themselves, to so to speak. Apparently on PC it was really good back in the day, but the console versions were never going to be anywhere close to that. They are now, at least.
I'm looking at the review scores in Metacritic for this. So Famitsu gave
I would have said it. Let me guess.
Yeah.
The Metacritic overall score, I'd say, has got to be just getting into the 70s.
Yeah, pretty
72?
much spot on there. So the PS3 Metacritic is 72, nailed that one. 360 74, and PC is 68 for some reason.
Oh, okay.
Famitsu gave it a 35 out of a 40, and Dengeki PlayStation gave it 85 out of 100.
Yeah, so in its homeland, people liked it. I think I saw somewhere that it sold like 60,000 copies in its first couple of months.
Here we go.
It's really bad.
Despite favourable reviews, the game had only sold 20,000 copies in North America by April 2012. In Japan, it sold 73,683 copies when it was released, being the number 2 game sold at the time. So it was much more popular in Japan than it was in the West for some reason, which is, I guess, plays into what we were talking about earlier on, in that this is a much like another few games that we speak about, but it's just an unloved classic, I think.
And that also kind of plays into what I was saying to you last night about the fact that this game is by a Japanese developer and set in Japan, but Japan is the bad guy.
Yeah, it's really odd, isn't it?
And the Americans are coming in to take Japan down.
But then the American at the end, I suppose, is the big bad guy. Because he just tries...
Yeah.
You have to fight him at the end. So all governments are bad, I suppose, by the end of it.
Do you think the Japanese audience was cheering on the policeman who's like sniping us out of the air and trying to foil us at every turn?
Probably. And it's interesting.
I didn't mind that character, actually.
No, it's interesting that it did better in Japan than it did in the West because they've clearly designed the characters to try and appeal to a Western audience.
And the gameplay.
Yeah.
As we said, it's Gears of War maybe that's what it was, just Gears of War for the Japanese audience.
Yeah, and you're right. If it's a Japanese game and the bad guys are the Japanese and the good guys are Americans and Chinese, it's really odd.
Yeah.
Really odd.
But then who's the one who gets ostracized for being different? The Chinese woman.
She's not a real human, apparently.
Well, there you go. That's what it's all an allegory for. Japan still hates China.
Yeah.
And the rest of the world caught up last year.
So apparently, this is another thing where we're talking about critical reception. I've just seen Eurogamer praised the lack of music in this game as it allows gamers to factor in noise and in-game effects to determine their gaming strategy. I'm not sure about that.
I felt like there was constant music in this game, and it was the same
too.
song over and over again.
IGN noted that the game was somewhat derivative, but nevertheless considered it to be a fresh and often thrilling experience with a handful of negatives holding it back from greatness. I think I'd
How can you be derivative and fresh at the same time? Though?
Well, yeah, okay, I agree with that.
But yeah, it is derivative. But it's like I said at the beginning,
it's not fresh, but it's derivative, but it's still sort of fresh is the wrong word, but it's still good.
It's execution over innovation.
Yeah, exactly.
At the beginning,
yeah.
They just nailed what they were going for. It just wasn't exactly.
What was the multiplayer? Apparently, GameSpot criticised the lag in multiplayer, and that voice commands do not always get recognised by the game.
I had no idea it had multiplayer.
Take it as co-op. It's got to be co-op, right?
I don't know. I just totally bypassed that on the menu screen.
Yeah.
Didn't even have a look.
Let's see if there's anything else. Binary, yep. Metacritic, yep. May have covered most of that. Yeah, I think that's largely it. I think if I was going to stick it on the winner, I always make you ask, so I suppose you do it. So I suppose I'll.
Hang on a second. Several. It doesn't really say a lot here. Several multiplayer classes are available: Scout, Sniper, Striker, Soldier, Heavy Gunner.
It must be.
PvP, there are two factions: the Ministry of Homeland Affairs and the
PvP.
Resistance Fighters. Yeah, data capture, domain control, team survival, operation invasion, team deathmatch, and free for all. Yeah, fucking hell.
Well, I guess it was at the time where every game had to have multiplayer, right?
Yeah, exactly. Again, Xbox 360 Xbox 360 game.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably. Can I give it an 8?
That's
give everything a fucking 7 or a 7.5, so I'm giving it an 8.
Yeah, I think
It's not. I enjoyed it.
It's not a 9.
10 years after the fact.
To me, a 9 or a 10 are games that are going to be like up there with the best of the best in for a discussion for Game of the Year. Like I don't think it would have been out of interest when this came out in 2012. Let me have a look and see what other games.
Oh yeah, that's a good shout.
Games came out in 2012. Mark of the Ninja, The Walking Dead, Persona 4, Mass Effect 3, Cave Story, Journey,
Dishonored,
Fire Emblem Awakening,
Max Payne 3,
Trials Evolution.
Did you just say Journey?
Yeah.
Yeah, Halo
Dishonored,
4.
Borderlands 2.
Pretty good year, actually.
Yeah.
Sleeping Dogs.
Far Cry 3, XCOM, Enemy Unknown, Dark Souls. I don't know what Dark Souls is. Dark Souls Artorias of the Abyss.
It's DLC.
Transformers
Fall of Cybertron is fucking wicked, by the way.
The highest grossing games of 2012 were Call of Duty Black Ops 2, World of Warcraft, a game called Crossfire. Never heard of, not sure what that is. FIFA 13, Borderlands 2, World of Tanks, Pokemon Black 2, New Super Mario Bros. 2, Minecraft, and League of Legends. So yeah, you're right. It's like I was saying, like 9 and 10s are like talk about game of the years. It's not that. It's better than a 7, I think, but there are things that let it down. So I think an 8 I want to say 7.5, but I'm just screw it. I'm saying 7.5. That's what my.
Did you see the event? I think you're looking at 2012 in video games on Wikipedia. You're seeing the events. Look at the first event.
Sega reduces Western businesses after releasing binary domain and focus on digital on PC and mobile.
It really hurt
binary domain.
That sucks.
Metal Gear franchise completed 25 years.
So did Street Fighter, apparently.
And Street Fighter, yeah. Eurogamer exporters, London. What year did we go to Eurogamer?
It could be that. It could be 2012.
Yeah. Oh, Mega Man was 25 years old in 2012 as well. It would have been. Yeah, we would have went in 2011 because the PlayStation Vita came out in February the 15th. So we would have went in September 2011.
Would we?
Well, we played the Vita at Eurogamer pre-release, so I think it must have been September 2011. Yeah, because you got to play Uncharted, and I got some stupid mini game. The Wii U came out that year.
Here we go. We also went in 2012 as well.
Oh, did we? Did we go twice?
Yep. Because there's a picture of us with something from Alien Colonial Marines there from 2012.
Oh, little did we know. 10 years later, we'd be podcasting about that game, ready to kill ourselves. The Wii U.
We played that.
We were so excited by the Wii U. I think I was excited by the Wii mainly so that I could do substitutions in FIFA without pausing the game.
That is very true. That's the year that the year before that, sorry, was the year we ran to Skyrim.
What a game that was. It is.
Yeah.
Still going.
We went in Oh no, we didn't go in 2014. That was something else. Anyway. Yeah. That's a shame that it upset Sega that much.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a shame that it didn't. It deserved better than what it got, I think.
Yeah, and then if you think about that, what we've just gleaned there, and the guy's saying, "Oh, I'll make a sequel if Sega are okay with it." I don't think they are, mate.
No, probably not. Which I suppose brings us towards the end of episode 35 of the Resurrected Winners You podcast.
It does.
If you want to get in touch with us via email, you can send us an email, question, thoughts, comments, anything you fancy saying to us to awinnerisyoupod@gmail.com. You can also check out the podcast on YouTube, Winner Is You Podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at DavidSmiley1, SMILLIE, and Alex SuperThrillix with 2 L's. And you can also follow us. I need to add this to the YouTube video, but you can follow us on Twitter at Winner Is You Pod, and you can also follow us on Instagram, which is also a Winner Is You Pod. One thing I would like to point out is I have been doing a This Day in Gaming every day on Instagram.
You have, I noticed.
Which has been, I've been very much enjoying that. Did you know
I've enjoyed that too.
The day of, as of day of recording, we are on, this is the anniversary of Zelda Breath of the Wild and the Nintendo Switch release, which came out in 2017, I believe.
Oh yeah, because I got it for my birthday.
Yes.
Because my birthday's in a couple of weeks. Shit.
So, yeah, that's it.
What? Sorry, what year did you say?
I said 2017, but I might have just pulled that out of my ass, to be honest. Let me have a quick little look-see and see what I've said on the old Instagram. Because I thought...
I saw you were talking about Yoshi's Story yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Bless that game.
Oh, I've not logged into Instagram on this computer. Let me have a look at... I've thrown my phone away.
I'll tell you.
Lucky Alex is here to rescue us. Yeah, we've had Yoshi's Story.
2017.
2017. We've had Jet Set Radio. What else have we had? Yakuza's made an appearance on the pod.
Great
feed.
picture as well, by the way.
I find a couple of funny ones that I put on there. So that's a reason to give us a follow and check out what we're up to, because I went on a mission. I was like, right, I need to at least put a post up about every single podcast game we've covered. So I completed that today.
So Halo, the last one. Yeah.
Halo was the last one. So now it is, I need to think of more content beyond This Day in Gaming. But I'm enjoying This Day in Gaming. It's fun. It's fun to see what came out in previous years. Giving
I'm surprised you've managed to find one for every day. How are you find? No, don't peek behind the curtain. You can tell me how you're figuring it out. Everyone else can shut. Fuck off.
I can give you I was going to say give you a peek behind the curtain, but it's not really a peek behind the curtain because by the time you hear this podcast, it'll be out. But as tomorrow, Alex, in fact, since we're on it, I'm going to give you a selection of games that have an anniversary tomorrow, and you can pick the game that we cover because there's a few good ones on this one. So 6 years old tomorrow is The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess HD. 8 years old tomorrow is South Park The Stick of Truth.
Oh, yes.
With 12 years old, we've got Armored Core. It came out. Well, that's the PSP version, though. So that's
From Software.
It is indeed. PlayStation 2 saw the release of Silent Hill Origins in 2008. 2008 on this date also saw the release of God of War Chains of Olympus on PS3, PSP, and Bully Scholarship Edition on Xbox 360. We also have 20 years old tomorrow is Fatal Frame. 21 years old tomorrow is Conker's Bad Fur Day. And, this may be
we
the
missed
one.
that last year.
28 years old tomorrow is NBA Jam.
Oh, yeah, that's... I'll be playing that soon for my review in Sega Mania magazine.
Looking forward to that. I need to get my head around that game because we tried to play that in Leeds and I just couldn't enjoy it.
Yeah, you have to really kind of
get in
the mindset of the AI and what you want the AI to do and when. It's all about managing what they're doing rather than what you're doing.
I think my favorite old school sort of semi-sports game, competitive multiplayer game that we played that of all time was it a Mega Drive game? Blitzball or something, is it?
Speedball 2.
Speedball 2. I absolutely
Brutal Deluxe.
love that game. That is so good, that game.
You know, that's actually got a manager mode in it.
Has it?
Yeah,
fantastic.
So like football manager in it, yeah. It's absolutely bizarre.
Yeah.
What a game.
So what's your selection, Alex? I'd say like my one, I was looking at this thinking
South Park.
South Park, okay. Yeah, okay, South Park.
Because I think that game's fantastic.
So is Bully.
I've not played Bully.
Oh, have you not?
Is it long? It's too long, innit? We can't do it on it.
How long to beat? We have got some long games in this. How long to beat Bully? 15 hours. That is not long.
No, that's not long.
That is short for an open world game.
Yeah. Interesting.
Maybe add that to the spready to come back to.
Yeah.
At a later date alongside Vanquish. And I also wrote down Brothers in Arms on my bit of paper here because that put me in the mood to play that too.
I've never played that, so I would play that. If it's viable.
Yeah, we need to figure out where we can find it. But with that, I suppose that brings us to the end of episode 35, Alex. We've done the housekeeping already. Is there anything you're up to in your life that you want to cover before we just head off into the sunset? I do not.
Just trying to think of what we tell people we're playing next.
Do that, yes. Okay, I'll word that. Okay. So, for listeners, next up on the podcast, we're going to be playing Super Metroid on the SNES. So look forward to that one. Get your Switches out because that's on. What is that even called? Switch Plus.
Nintendo Switch Online.
Yeah,
Super Nintendo.
You got that.
Or other.
And then we're
going down a bit of a Metroidvania.
We are
track.
Because following that up, we've got Castlevania Symphony of the Night coming along at some point. We're also going to be playing Elden Ring, and we're just going to podcast about Elden Ring when we're finished with it. But we're not going to set a hard and date by it. So it may be Super Metroid, then Symphony, then Elden Ring. It may be Super Metroid, then Elden Ring, then Symphony. I suspect it'll be Super Metroid, Symphony, then Elden Ring, but it will just be podcasting about Elden Ring as and when we're ready. So if you see that podcast pop up in your feeds, get playing it. And if you're ready to listen, listen. If not, just leave it downloaded and save it till you're ready to have a listen. Which I suppose brings us to the end of episode 35 of the Resurrected A Winners U podcast. My name has been David. His name has been Alex. We have been A Winners U. And I'm out.
Keep gaming.
That's
a good link. That's going to be